على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم والله أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني
Shukran so much for joining and being here and for engaging us on the platform. Alhamdulillah. This is the Raw and Occupation program on a Friday night where myself and my co-host Amara has a look at all things Palestine. Alhamdulillah. This evening we're showcasing and highlighting organizations from South Africa that are busy doing good work in relation to Palestine, campaigns that they are running. And this brings us to our next guest. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Dr. Yusuf.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Doc?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. How are you two doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Good.
Dr. Yusuf is the chairperson of Salt River Heritage Society, alhamdulillah. And Amara, I was telling you earlier that there's a few awesome things that is happening. The 72 kilometers, mashallah, beautiful program. However, not so awesome for me. And then we had Rehana Samodin with her mosques. And this is something very peculiar, very different, very woke. For the people that don't know what woke is, it's like trending. It's like just really awesome what Salt River Society, Heritage Society is doing. So Doc, we hand over to you, inshallah, and run us through the program, the artwork that is happening in Salt River, inshallah.
No, shukran, Maulana. I never imagined myself to be woke, so it's quite an interesting idea that I'm trending. So I'm very curious about that idea. But just listening to the other contributors that you've had, I must say that what we are doing as the Salt River Heritage Society is far less ambitious than the 72-kilometer jog, and clearly more modest than Modest Fix. It's a small organization serving a very small community, and a fairly young organization. In fact, we were established in 2018, so we're about 3 years old, and our focus as a heritage society is clearly matters of history, heritage, and culture. We capture the voices and the memories of people in the community. We try to collect records and photographs and artifacts. Our goal eventually, hopefully soon, is to compile a coffee table book reflecting the diverse and really interesting history of the community of Salt River. One of the things we had planned a few years ago was to create a heritage walk, or a walk of memorial. And we were thinking of using wall art, street art, as a means to reflect that particular history. Not much happened in the last couple of years, I think partly because of the pandemic. We haven't been able to meet, and however, as you well know, Salt River is in fact already a center for street art in Cape Town and in fact in South Africa. We have a range of murals all over the place. So a couple of years ago, like I said, we had this idea of initiating a kind of heritage walk and a walk of memorial. And that kind of idea was on the back burner when other issues happened. I mean, with the pandemic, we got involved in other activities in the community. But coming back to what has happened in the last couple of weeks, I think the issue with the Palestinians and the attack on Gaza has really, I think, stirred the hearts of countless of peoples across the country and indeed across the world. and Salt River is no exception. So a few weeks ago, we had a local march in our area. The march was organized by the residents of Salt River, along with the support from the local Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. The chairperson, incidentally, of the PSC, Martin, is a member of Salt River Heritage Society and a former resident of Salt River. And I think after that walk, something happened in Salt River. Now, what happened, I think, it's kind of difficult to explain, but I think the hearts and minds of the residents were just stirred, you know, and they needed something that they could do in order to reflect their support. And given the distance and given the lack of funding sometimes that people have, they struggle to understand what it is they can do. And what then happened in Salt River was that some individuals had taken it upon themselves to go out and look at the existing art that was on the walls in the area, and to redefine it and to reuse it. And so they took the initiative and began a very simple process of imposing on the existing art an alternative message. And so they would change the colors to the Palestinian flag colors. They would add.
If I can jump in there, Doc, if I can jump in there, it's basically they changed the narrative.
They changed the narrative. So with very few resources and what they had available, they used that to change the narrative. They kind of subtly went around and they looked at the existing art and they begin to redefine it, reuse it, adapt it to change the narrative. And as a society, we found this just very interesting, because our job is to capture the voices, and by them doing that, that was an indication of them speaking. So it was clear that there was something happening in the community that as a heritage society, we should respond to. And so as part of that exercise, we then decided to begin to go around the area and engage with the community and ask them whether they were willing to provide us as a heritage society with space for us to begin to produce our own art. The very art that we were always talking about, we just felt now was the time, and the community clearly seems ready to be doing something to promote freedom, promote justice, to act in solidarity with the people of Gaza and with Palestine. And we felt that we had to respond similarly to that voice that was coming up clearly. And so the three things that have happened with the art, I think, is the one is this very subtle, very almost covert process that's happening in the community, where people are going around just adjusting the art to reflect solidarity with Palestine. And that's an amazing thing, because the art remains intact. However, that simple flag added to the painting changes the storyline completely. And we know that tourists will continue to come to Salt River, and they will continue to look at the art, and they will see that, and they will ask about it. And hopefully then we can tell the story of the Palestinians to them in a way that maybe would not have reached the people that are looking at the art right now. So the one process was then redefining the art. The other one was us claiming more spaces to convey that art. And I think the third one is to begin to reclaim spaces that have been used in a way that doesn't reflect the story of Salt River or the rich heritage of the people. It's a more sanitized, more commercialized art that we think doesn't speak to anything, except possibly, we believe, the developers that are looking at Salt River as the next level of gentrification, of urbanization, of using the community again for redevelopment in the interest of the rich and the wealthy. And so I think this process is a really interesting one. It's a subtle one, but what it does, I think, is what I think we should clearly be doing more and more, and that is taking the issue of the Palestinians from the fringe of our communities to the center. sort of the marginalized to the mainstream. And in the past, you know, the graffiti or the street art pertaining to Palestine has always been on the fringes. It's always been on a piece of fibercrete somewhere that nobody can see. And I think what we're encouraging people to do is to change that and to begin to use the spaces that we have that are very visible to all, and to use those spaces to share and remind people on a continuous basis of the plight of the Palestinians. And so that's the sort of a fairly humble project that I think the Salt River Heritage Society is currently busy with. My colleague, Anwar, will be joining us soon, and I think he will share with you sort of some of the images of what has been done in the terms of the reuse and the redefining and adaptation of the art, some of our ideas for using new art and reclaiming the spaces. And what we're hoping is that other communities do something similar. You know, it's so easy for the plight of the Palestinians to move out of our vision if nobody talks about it. But if we put it in prominent places throughout the city, it's an unavoidable reminder to everyone of what is happening, what has happened, what is happening, and what's continuing to happen, and the need for us to be responsive to the needs of the Palestinians. So that's in a nutshell, Maulana Amara, is sort of what we're doing. But maybe Brother Anwar, if he is joining us soon, will be able to kind of expand on the idea and provide our viewers with a kind of visual idea of, you know, what it is that I've been talking about.
We're still waiting for Uncle Anwar to join, inshallah. I just have one question, Doc.
Yeah.
Is this legal?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Look, the process for
obvious.
No, absolutely. Look, graffiti is by nature illegal. So people go in the middle of the night and they put something on, and that has been struggle graffiti over the years. You know, you would wake up one morning and the Freedom Charter would be, you know, painted on the wall, or Free Mandela would be on the wall. And so there's an element of illegality and insurgency about it. But we're not doing that. I think what we're doing is within the framework of the law, and that requires a couple of things. One is we need to get permission of the owner of the house. We need to get permission from the neighbors. I think in total about 4 neighbors must approve the artwork, and you must present them with an example of what you're going to do. And thirdly, you submit that application to City Council. And so we're following that process for the new art. The existing art, obviously, that we are redefining and adapting doesn't require permission from City Council because it's already there. It simply requires the permission from the owner of the property to say, yes, you can adapt the art. I give you permission to do that.
Okay. Amara, any questions for that?
No, that sounds great. I mean, I have some family in Salt River, so I'm quite jealous of them that now on their daily commute they get to see really inspirational and important messages. I
Absolutely.
think how far along are you, Uncle Yusuf, in terms of the process of getting approval?
Yeah, so we've made a submission already. It normally takes up to 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, for approval to be granted. And of course, it would be interesting what the response of City Council is. So if we provide them, for example, of something that is extremely political, we need to see what their response is and then take it up with them if they believe that that is not something that they would consider appropriate. But that's another struggle, you see. I mean, what is appropriate or not appropriate depends on who the viewers are and who the applicants are and who the person in City Council is. I see Brother Anwar has joined us. Yeah. So maybe Anwar can show you some of the artwork, and then we can deal with some of the questions again later on.
Barakallah.
Over to you, Anwar.
Barakatuh, Uncle Anwar. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I was a bit worried there. I've been online for a
Yeah,
while.
yo.
Uh,
I know I was busy watching us instead of being on
yeah,
the
yeah,
background.
yeah.
Assalamu
Yo,
alaikum, Uncle
Wa
Anwar.
alaikum salam.
how are you, Uncle Anwar?
Alhamdulillah. Shukran.
Alhamdulillah. Barakallah feekum. So, Doctor is saying you'll be doing a presentation of some of
Yeah,
the artworks
I've
that have
got
been
a
done, inshallah.
I've got a pictorial presentation. You know, I think the visuals will give you a better appreciation as to what's happening in Salt River. So let me try and see. So I share screen, right?
Yeah.
And I share screen again. Do I go window?
Windows. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Windows.
Yep. Okay. And then I share. Okay. Can you guys see that?
It takes a moment to come up, inshallah.
Can you guys see it? Yeah.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Is that normal, Mujahid?
Well, it should be coming up. We shared a few screens earlier. Maybe if you could try it again, inshallah, and then we might be able to.
Well, I can see it on my end, and it you know, it's sharing the window.
Did Uncle Anwar click share again?
Yes, I
Share
did.
it should light up blue, and then it should share it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So let me stop sharing again.
Okay.
And then go back to where we are. So I'll share again. So it's share screen, right?
Yeah. Windows.
So which one is that? No, the blue bar. Okay, I share screen there, and then I go Windows. I click on my presentation and I share again, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
There we
yeah,
go.
I did that. Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it now. There we go.
Okay. Okay. So can I start?
Yeah, you may begin, inshallah.
Okay, so what my presentation is doing is just giving you a snapshot as to what's happening on the ground in Salt River, and linking that obviously to the pro-Palestinian activities, but also, you know, trying to give you a bit of a broader understanding as to what we as the Salt River Heritage Society is doing. So, for those who don't know where Salt River is, it's about 3 kilometers from Cape Town. I've colored in, you know, the map of Salt River. It's one of the oldest suburbs in Salt River. It's a junction in the peninsula, and it kind of, you know, fits neatly in between these directional routes, which is very important in terms of the ability of the area. So I won't spend too much time on that because I think we have a local audience. This is just some of the built fabric in the area. This is the circle. That's for Trekker Road. We have the Rex 2 form buildings, Rex 1 and 2. This is the Monatic building that's currently being developed. That's a Victorian building there, and the Ackermans building, which is the Art Deco building. This is the oldest school in the area. Yusuf, in fact, Dr. Yusuf, you know, went there as a primary school learner. This is the oldest church, St. Luke's Church, and this is the oldest mosque in the area. So just to give you a bit of a flavor as to the built environment. Let's go, you know, to the Palestinian activities. A couple of years ago, 2019, the Khan Yunus Football Club was hosted in Salt River by the Blackpool Sports Club. The person there, the chairperson, he organized it. He's a member of the Salt River Heritage Society, Iqbal. He's currently down with COVID. You know, he on oxygen, and hopefully, you know, Allah give him sifat, inshallah. But this is that event, you know, where the Khan Yunus Football Club from Gaza spent some time in Salt River, and they were welcomed with open hands, thousands of people on the field there, and by the way, they won 2-1. You know, at that.
Who won, Uncle Anwar?
The Palestinians, Khan Yunus Football Club.
Alhamdulillah. Ja, julle moet
But it
maar
was
dat
a-
die mense wen, kan
Yeah,
hulle.
yeah. It was a fantastic event, you know. The whole
Alhamdulillah.
community basically came out onto the field and, you know, and welcomed these guys from Gaza. Let's move on. This was on the 29th of May this year, obviously, when things started escalating in Gaza. You know, there was just an outpour of solidarity from the Salt River community. And as Yusuf said, we had a march on the 29th, Saturday, 29th of May. It was a rainy morning, and we didn't expect much of a turnout. But lo and behold, I mean, there were hundreds of people that turned out, you know, for that event. This was at the Circle. You know, it was organized in conjunction with the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. These are just a few pics. That's Brother or Dr. Yusuf Chitte. You know, that's a you know, pro-Palestinian stalwart. That's Rashid Omar, the Imam of Claremont Main Road Mosque. And, you know, it just goes on. And, you know, we had the South African Free Jews Society well represented as well. The event started at the Circle and then made its way up Salt River Road. There's the march. By the way, I took all these pictures. As Yusuf said, we capture almost everything in the community as a society, so that we can obviously preserve these memories, for future generations. And this is Martin Jansen, what Yusuf described. This is quite an historic picture for me. Martin is a trade union activist for many decades, and here I captured him, you know, right opposite the community house where you know, the workers' base is basically. So they continued up Salt River Road and then moved along Victoria Road, and then down Shelley Road. This is that monastic development that's ongoing there that I showed earlier, and you can see it's a fantastic, you know, event in terms of how people participated, the colors and the songs and so forth. This is now going into the Blackpool sports field. This is the same field that the Khan Yunus clubs played on. This is Dr. Coney. She's also a member of the Salt River Heritage Society. She's a Jewish lady living in the area. And the point is that this is not a religious issue. This is a human rights issue. And we have Christians, Muslims, Jews, all supporting this event. You know, on that day. This is the Blackpool Sports Club, and then inside the sports hall there was a program. This is Nadia Akhadin, she's one of our members as well, with Martin Jansen making the keynote address. We had Mitch Joffe from the you know, the Jewish organization that made a speech as well. And then we had a few cultural events as well. This is Nasreen Murat, and we had Zahir Samsudin, who did a few songs for us at that event. Moving on, immediately after that event, as Yusuf said, something happened in Salt River, you know, that's quite, you know, unique. Now, this picture is not my picture. The rest are. This is not my picture. This I took off the website or the Facebook page of Bazard, the organization that's driving the street art campaign in the area. This was, you know, their last festival, and, you know, the artists posing in front of this sign. And this was at the Circle. And immediately after that march, this was what was happening, as Yusuf described. You know, a new narrative was injected into the existing art, you know, in the area. So that's the first sign of this new trend that we observe. Then the next one was at the Salt River Station. There was a poster up on one of those canopies in terms of, you know, the growth of Israeli apartheid over the past 73 years. That was put up at the Salt River Station. Now, before, just a few years before 2000, between 1995 and 2000, there was a lot of graffiti art on the railway line. You know, because obviously Salt River is a junction. It's very opportune to do that because of visibility. And again, you see, you know, graffiti art being posted on the station. This is one of the pieces that were adapted, as Yusuf described. This is on the corner of Tennyson, Addison, and Chapel. This is a piece done by a French lady, and simply someone just put a Palestinian flag, you know, on the poster there. This is quite an interesting piece. This is a Jewish artist, Bill Pele, quite world renowned for his monogram paintings or street art. He goes across the world and does all these images wherever he goes. He was brought in against the BDS campaign into Salt River. Obviously, there's a cultural boycott against Israel, but you know, this guy was brought in to participate in this festival, despite, you know, the cultural boycott. This painting was then adapted. You can see here the mask was changed to Palestinian colors of the one avatar. The beak of the other one was changed, and Free Palestine was put on the leg of the smaller avatar. This has since again been readapted by, I would say, anti-Palestinian elements. The Free Palestinian slogan has been removed, and the beak of the small avatar has also been removed. So there's kind of a to and fro tussling between pro and anti-Palestinian elements in the area. This is also another interesting piece. This is Kulsum. She's also a member of the Salt River Heritage Society, living in the area, born and bred in the area. Her image was put onto this wall without her permission. You know, and she then demanded that this image be removed, and it's been 4 months the image wasn't removed. And when she got word, or you know, became aware of this kind of covert artist operating in Salt River, she basically commissioned one of them to change her image to the way she wanted it, because it, you know, initially it, the organization that put a face on the wall didn't have that permission. So all the artist did was he changed the colors of a scarf and put a little blood tear with Palestinian colors in her eye. That's all he did, and obviously also changed the narrative. Very effective. It's a very, very beautiful painting. And I think what Kulsum has done, she's claimed, you know, that painting for herself and basically turned it into something that she wanted it to be. This is another piece, just changing the colors of these stripes to Palestinian colors. This piece is still ongoing, it seems. You know, these, you know, I don't think it's done. It's probably in progress, but also very effective. Then this is a wall, a whole wall. This is on the corner of Chapel and Addison, opposite the other piece I showed initially. This is Butandua's house, and this is an old painting that was on the wall. And the Salt River Heritage Society, this is our project. We, the others were obviously, you know, spurious activity in the area by, you know, free thinking, or, you know, or free wielding artists, I should say. But this is one of our projects. We approached Butanua. We managed to get approval to put our own image on this wall and make it relevant to the people of Salt River. We then collaborated with, you know, two artists, Navavi and a lady artist. I can't remember her name, but yeah, we collaborated with them. They gave us, you know, the artwork, and at the bottom here, I tried. It's a bit small, but I tried to depict it. This is what's going on the wall. This is the artwork. So it's a roadmap, you know, of the Palestinian struggle from 1948 to current. So it will depict. You'll see the road there. This is the wall in Gaza. Yeah, and this image will depict the roadmap, you know, from 1948 to current. This is, you know, how the land got smaller and smaller, and it will all be reflected on this piece. That's ongoing. In fact, those guys will be working on it tomorrow again, and it will take a few a few weeks to complete. And the intention is once it's complete, to have a kind of unveiling ceremony of sorts, whereby we'll educate the community as to what the piece is about, and why we are in support of Gaza. Okay, so that's a Salt River Heritage Society project. Here's another Salt River Heritage Society project. This wall was painted again by two Israeli artists, Brothers of Light. They were also brought into the country and participated in this festival, contrary to the BDS cultural boycott. They painted this in 2018, and as you can see, it's a very sort of abstract kind of image. No one knows really in the community what it means. The owner themselves, they don't know what it means. And they were telling me that the previous version of this was even more radical. It was even more abstract. They couldn't make sense of it, and the artist then toned it down to this and put it on the wall. We got permission to use that wall, and we've started creating a canvas. You see it on the bottom page, and we intend to put an image on that canvas. And the image we want to put is the image of Judge Siraj Desai, who's a son of Salt River. Now, incidentally, Siraj grew up and was born right opposite this premises. So when you step out of his family home, you look directly onto this hall. And also that there's a conflict between him and the South African Zionist Federation in terms of their objection to him being a judge and supporting the Palestinian struggle. And that's ongoing. So we as a society, we think it's appropriate that as a son of Salt River, one of the first judges of color in our country, and who has a track record, a human rights track record, a lifetime human rights track record, we want to honor him in that regard, and we'll do that for many other personalities in the area as well. This is but the first that we are doing. So that's kind of roughly what has been happening over the past month, Mujahid. The landscape is quickly changing, and it's moving very, very fast. But yeah, we, as Yusuf said, this is the modest contribution that we as a society seek to make in terms of the Palestinian struggle.
Firstly, that was amazing to see, subhanallah. And I think the important thing is the manipulation of the narrative. And for far too long, a certain narrative had been poured down our throats. We were told to open up and swallow, and it is time that narrative be challenged, and it is time for that narrative to be altered. And kudos to everyone in Salt River for what had been done, alhamdulillah. Buta Anwar, I don't know if Doctor is still with us. If Doctor is, Dr. can just indicate, and we will add Doctor. But there's a person by the name of Solomon Adams, and he says Salt River Residents Association in full support, I assume in full support of the art for Palestine. Our stories in Salt River and in South Africa, our stories intersect with the ongoing oppression of the Palestinian peoples. We salute our residents for embracing this new art. Our area has long been a bastion of Palestinian support. Another statement from Zulfa Sambo. The artwork is amazing. A picture is worth 1,000 words. May we continue to support and fight for the liberation of Palestine. And then someone from Salt River Heritage Society, from Salt River to the sea, Palestine will be free. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. The sentiments speak for itself, alhamdulillah. Stay the course, gentlemen. Stay the course.
Just one last comment, Mujahid.
Yes,
you asked Yusuf about the legality of this, and it's it's something that we're struggling with, because you have to apply for a permit. Now, on some of these initiatives, we have owners approval, but to get a permit, for example, on this one, right, we had to get the owner's approval, and we now have 6 neighbors' approval, right? So we have 7 residents' approval, basically the owner plus 6, right? All these Butamusa there, the 2 opposite houses, and so forth. We now need to submit that to the city. This is the process, right? To apply for the permit, which we're now doing. We have created the canvas because we object to this image being displayed in our area, because this was done contrary to the BDS campaign. So we've blocked that out. It's an old painting, 2018. So and we have owner's approval. But really, to put a new image on that hall, we need the city's approval in terms of a permit. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out over the next few weeks in terms of our application as a community organization with full approval from the owner as well as the neighbors, how the city is going to respond to this. So what's the space? This is a very interesting development, not only for our area, but for all areas in the peninsula and the country indeed.
I mean, I think you need to go up to Joburg and Durban and go and draw some paintings there as well. I'm not insinuating anything, but the Anwar, permission versus forgiveness. I'm just saying. But truly amazing artwork, mashallah. Something different, something really amazing. And Salt River had always during the apartheid, so Salt River was a beacon for our people. Whether they be factory workers or whoever it might have been. But shukran so much for coming on the program. Last words from Dr. Yusuf. Doctor, any last thoughts or contributions?
Yeah, just simply to say, Maulana, that I started by saying it's a small organization serving a small community. And I believe there are literally hundreds of small organizations throughout the country who are doing similar wonderful work. And I think we need to acknowledge that there's a groundswell of support growing in our communities across religious barriers, across cultural, political boundaries. And those small communities making those significant contributions should be given a platform of sorts as we have tonight. But I think that will reflect truly a widespread support coming from the ordinary people in this country. So thank you very much from our side. Shukran to you for giving us this opportunity.
It is only our pleasure. One last thing from myself, and then if Amara has anything, she's welcome to jump in. How can the community support? Look, I assume it takes some paint and whatever. Say there's a guy, some half a can of paint left in his garage or whatever.
Absolutely.
Where can they drop it off? Or how can they get involved?
They can contact us, Maulana. I'll send you my number. Yeah, but we also need artists, right? Artists to assist with changing the narrative. We have halls. We have many halls. Those are not the only 2 halls that we have. We have other halls where there's nothing on, right? That we want to put, a new narrative on, right? We have many images that we want and stories that we want to tell on these halls. But we need artists and we need paint. So yeah, I'll drop my number with you. And if anyone has any artists out there, or anyone knows of artists that wants to join, the campaign, they're welcome to contact us.
I mean, inshallah, I'm like still a crayon and finger paint kind of guy. So yeah,
there's space for you too, Maulana. There's space for you too. Yeah, a very small space, but we'll provide you with some space.
Somewhere in the corner. Gentlemen, shukran so much for
before you guys leave. I just want to say you keep referring to this thing as like a modest like exhibition. I don't think that's fair.
Us Cape Townians are modest.
But sometimes you don't have to be. It's incredible. I mean, so in terms of artists, definitely us as MSA Union will try and look for some artists that can come and volunteer their time. The other thing that I'm thinking about is how sort of public has the artwork been on social media?
Well, the artwork of the organization that's currently driving the process, Baz Art, has been very, very public. their website and their Facebook page, you know, and their social media campaign and media campaign generally. I mean, it's massive. They have a lot of resources. Our campaign is small. It's you know, as Yusuf explained, it only just started, but it's gaining momentum. You know, and this is obviously one of those steps. So when Maulana called us late last night, in fact, we jumped at the opportunity, you know, and you know, prepared ourselves to present, you know, to the audience as to what's happening in Salt River, because we think it's important that we get our story out there, right? But you know, again, it's been a modest campaign, but we're slowly ramping that up as we speak. And I would encourage anyone in Cape Town to come and visit Salt River, visit those spots that I indicated. We are there tomorrow on site to continue the Palestinian roadmap. So yeah, come and see what we're doing.
I can't understand how you guys could not get this right. Simple, gentlemen. Samosas, kusistas, stand there where the artists sell it, buy the paint. There you go. There's your business model.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Maulana. But I also just want to add, you know, you asked, what can people do? I think one of the things we've realized today when Anwar and I were chatting is that there are many young, talented artists in our community needing a platform for their art to be displayed and to be made public, and for their work to be reach a wider audience. And we're inviting exactly those young people to approach us with their distinctive approach to art, you know, whether it's abstract, whether it's, you know, whatever the different forms of art they are into, there's a space for them in our sort of campaign. And so our call tonight is for people to approach us. If they're all these young artists, the young artists listening in tonight, clearly there is a platform for you to have your art displayed, and all you need to do is just contact us, and I hope they will, inshallah.
Yeah, so Salt River Heritage Society, they have a Facebook page. I'm not sure if they have an Instagram, but please do go out there, drop them a DM. And Doc, do you know what that is? I know you woke.
No, you must tell me. No, I'm not woke that much. What is a DM? Because I keep a
DM, direct message. So it's so please do contact them. Yes, alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
Yeah, so Facebook page, Salt River Heritage Society. Please go and have a look there. Contact them if you have any paint. You're not going to complete the job. Your wife has been complaining for the past 6 months that you're not going to. So just give the paint to them, inshallah. Gentlemen, Buta Anwar, Dr. Yusuf, Jazakum Allah khairan. Allah reward you. Allah keep you steadfast. And we pray that you stay the course, and that Allah grant that when we take a drive down through Salt River, it's going to bring tears to our eyes, inshallah. Jazakum Allah khairan, gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.